All right, everyone. Well, we're ready for the third lecture here as far as statistics are concerned. And don't worry if you're finding that this is a little challenging here at the beginning. That's okay. Just work on those multiple drafts as far as the notes and the information is concerned. For the third part, we're actually going to talk about statistical significance in terms of the notes and the information in the notes. For statistical significance, I'm going to try to explain what that term actually means for you. And hopefully this will make some sense and it'll relate back to what you just learned about the chi-square. Let me give you this following situation that you'll want to write some information down about. Let's say that in any given year, so it's a hot day today, let's say that we had one day here in the month of May where it reached 90 degrees. And I was trying to figure out if that is evidence for climate change, for global warming, if you will. So one day of 90 degrees. What would you say if I made that conclusion? Would you say that if there's one day of 90 degrees, could that happen due to chance? Or if it did happen, would that probably be due to climate change? Hopefully you would deduce that if we simply had one day of 90 degrees, that could really happen due to chance. If research historically shows that on any given year that could happen maybe 20% of the time, on 20% of the years, you could say, well, look, you could get a 90-degree day. That could happen 20% of the time. So if you actually found that you had one day of 90 degrees, you would probably say, well, that probably happened due to chance and it didn't happen due to climate change or anything. And your conclusion would probably be correct. So that's situation number one. But let's take situation number two now. Let's say I made a statement. Let's say that every day for the month of May down here in Roanoke or up in Stanton, that every day in Roanoke and Stanton, the thermometer hit 100 degrees each and every day, at least once. And I said, well, that happened 30 straight days. If I asked you, was that due to chance or was that probably due to some other variable like climate change, what would you probably conclude? Well, if you think about it, you would probably conclude that event did not happen due to chance. The logic, the way that it flows here, is you would basically say, well, what are the odds that you could have 30 straight days of 100 degrees due to chance? The probability of that event occurring due to chance is probably 1 in a million. Right? 1 in a million that you could have 30 straight days above 100 degrees. So if that event actually happened, if you actually had 30 straight days, you would probably say, well, do I have to decide is that result due to chance or is it due to something else like climate change? You would probably make the decision that the probability of that event happening due to chance is very, very low. So if the probability of an event due to chance is so low, in this case 1 in a million, you'll probably say, well, that event didn't happen due to chance. That happened because of something else. And that, folks, is the idea behind statistical significance. What we do in our research studies is we get a result from a study and we figure out, well, what is the probability that event could happen due to chance? If the probability of an event due to chance, if an event happens less than 5 times out of 100, what we basically do is we say that event is so unlikely that we'll decide that event was not due to chance. Take the statistics of phobia situation. We got a result in that particular situation with a high value. The probability of having 18 out of 20 people say they're scared of statistics just due to chance, the probability of that occurring is very, very low. And so what we decided that it didn't happen due to chance at all. We decided that this result was not due to chance and it was in fact statistically significant. So when we make a decision, we try to decide, did the event happen due to chance or did the event happen due to something else? We always look at chance first, and if the probability due to chance is low, less than 5 out of 100, we usually decide that the event was not due to chance and it was due to something else. So I've given you one example for that. Let me try another example here for you. Do you remember a number of years ago they used to have the Psychic Friends hotline? Kind of reminds me, well, actually, we'll get back to that in another minute or so. Not a good time for a joke here. But let me give you another situation here. Let's say that I tell you that I'm a psychic and that I can mind read the cards that you have. And so you have 52 cards in your deck, and I say that I can figure out what the suits are. So before you turn over a card, I'll tell you if it's hearts, clubs, diamonds, or spades. And let's say, for the sake of example, that you go through the whole deck, and let's say, just for the sake of example, I get 15 of those suits correct. 15. If you had to decide if I'm a psychic or not, what would you decide if I get 15 suits correct from that whole deck? Think about it. 15 suits. Hopefully the way your logic would work is you would say, well, what is chance performance with 52 cards? Well, if there are 52 cards and there are 4 different suits, what is chance behavior? Well, chance is 13. So if I only get 15 right, that's pretty close to chance, isn't it? That could happen pretty easily. So if I only get 15 correct, you're going to say, well, you know what? That result is pretty close to chance. You're not a psychic. This result could happen due to chance. You don't have any telekinetic powers and so forth. So in this case, when you get a result that's close to chance, you say that result happened due to chance and there's no significance there. But let's take another situation. Let's say somebody says they are a psychic, and out of the 52 cards, they get 48 of the 52 suits correct. 48 out of 52. So what is that? Well, 48 out of 52 is a very high percentage, isn't it? Could somebody actually get that result due to chance? Well, technically the answer is yes. Somebody could get 48 out of 52. Now, what does that divide out to be? 4 goes into each one of those, so what is that? 4 into 48, 12, 13, so that's like 93 or so percent. The probability that somebody could get 48 out of 52 cards correct due to chance is probably very, very low. So if you had to make a conclusion there, you would say, well, the probability of this happening due to chance is very, very low. Thus, I'm going to say this isn't due to chance. There's something else going on here. The person might be cheating. The person might be a psychic. So statistics and statistical significance works just like this. We take an event that happens. We figure out what is the probability that this event could happen due to chance. And then we say, well, if the probability is large, 15 cards correct, then we say, oh, this is due to chance. There's no significance here. But if the probability due to chance is very low, then we actually say, well, that probability due to chance, that is so unlikely due to chance that if we get this event happening, we'll decide that it's not due to chance at all, that it's statistically significant. So I've covered a lot of information here in this first class presentation here. Hopefully you can write the notes out for this basic information. Send me a draft, ask me any questions that you want for Roman numerals 1, 2, and 3. You do have some homework problems just to demonstrate that you know what you're doing here. Chapter 17, page 627, problem number 5, and then page 35. Let's see if I can flip through in my textbook to see if this is a reasonable thing for you to do. Yeah, there's some simple math things to do here, sum of x squared, and so forth, just to see if you can read some of the textbook information and figure this out. So it looks like page 35, problem 18, and page 67 as well. For that one, problem number 4 to get some n's and some sum of x's and so forth. So hopefully this makes sense to you. Send me drafts of the notes here. Make sure you post on the discussion board, and we'll see what we can do. Thank you. Bye-bye.